The police station was unusually quiet for a Friday night, until the door swung open with a loud creak. Sergeant Carter barely looked up from his coffee. It had been a slow evening, just how he liked it. The last call had been a minor car accident, and the streets were mostly calm. Then, the sound of hurried, uneven footsteps echoed through the entrance. A girl stood at the doorway, barely lit by the fluorescent glow above. She was thin, her face pale beneath smudges of dirt. Her oversized hoodie was torn at the sleeves, and her jeans were caked in mud. Wet strands of her dark hair clung to her face as she staggered forward. Carter straightened in his chair, setting his coffee down. "Miss, you all right?" The girl said nothing. She looked around, as if checking for something, or someone, before gripping the front desk with trembling fingers. Officer Riley, who had been flipping through some paperwork, frowned. "Miss, are you lost? Do you need help?" Her lips parted, but no words came out. She looked exhausted, her breath shallow, shoulders rising and falling rapidly. Then, she leaned forward and whispered 2 words. Riley's expression changed instantly. The color drained from his face. His posture, once relaxed, went rigid. His hand shot to his radio. "This is Officer Riley, I need immediate backup at the station. Now." Sergeant Carter's stomach tightened. What the hell did she say? Riley turned, his voice low and urgent. She said, "He knows." Carter's brow furrowed. "Who knows? About what?" The girl took a shaky step back, pressing herself against the counter as if expecting someone to burst through the door at any second. Her breathing turned ragged, her entire body trembling. Carter moved toward her slowly, hands raised, as if approaching a wild animal. "Hey, you're safe here. Just tell us what's going on." The girl's wide, terrified eyes met his. And then, suddenly, the station's power cut out. The overhead lights flickered twice before everything plunged into darkness. For a brief moment, the only sound was the girl's sharp inhale. Then, the emergency backup lights kicked in, casting eerie red glows across the walls. The police radios crackled with static before Riley smacked his, trying to get a clear signal. "What the hell?" Carter muttered, reaching for his flashlight. The girl let out a soft, panicked sound, half whimper, half sob. "Shoo," Carter said instinctively, though he wasn't sure why. Something about this moment felt wrong. A deep, unsettling wrongness that made the hairs on the back of his neck rise. He glanced toward the station's entrance. The door she had come through was still open, swinging slightly in the cold breeze. Beyond it, the streetlights flickered like the power outage wasn't just inside the station, it was happening outside too. Riley finally got his radio working. "Dispatch, we've lost power at the station. Possible area-wide outage. Requesting confirmation on." A loud bang from outside cut him off. The girl gasped, pressing her hands over her ears. Carter didn't even hesitate. He reached for his sidearm. "Riley, stay with her." He moved toward the entrance, his flashlight cutting through the dim red glow. The moment he stepped outside, the air felt wrong. The street, usually buzzing with life even this late, was eerily empty. The stores across from the station were dark. The only sounds were the distant hum of car alarms and the buzzing of a flickering street lamp. Then he saw it. A car sat abandoned in the middle of the road, its driver's side door wide open. No driver. No passengers. Just, left there. Carter's gut twisted. He turned back to the station just in time to see the girl staring at him through the glass window, her eyes pleading. Like she knew something he didn't. He rushed back inside. "All right, start talking. Who are you?" "What do you mean, he knows?" The girl's lower lip trembled. I shouldn't be here." Carter gritted his teeth. Too late for that. Tell us what's going on. Riley tried a gentler approach. Hey, we want to help you. But we need to understand what's happening. Who's after you? The girl hesitated. Then, in a barely audible whisper, she said. My name is Anna. Carter exchanged a glance with Riley. That wasn't much, but it was a start. Okay, Anna, Riley said. Where are you from? She swallowed hard. I don't know. Carter narrowed his eyes. You don't know? Anna's hands clenched into fists. I woke up in a house. A locked room. I don't remember how I got there. The way her voice shook sent a chill down Carter's spine. Where was this house? He asked. I ran so far I lost track. I don't even know what town I was in. Her breath hitched. But he was coming. He was watching me. Carter's grip on his flashlight tightened. Who? Riley asked. Who was watching you? Anna's lips parted, but no words came. Just trembling silence. Then, outside, a car engine roared to life. Carter's head snapped toward the entrance. He caught a glimpse of a black SUV peeling around the corner, its headlights off. And it was coming straight toward the station. Move! Carter shouted. Riley grabbed Anna, pulling her away from the glass just as the SUV skidded to a stop outside. The doors didn't open. No one stepped out. Just silence. The air felt thick, like something was waiting. Anna whimpered. It's him. Carter's pulse pounded. Riley, get her to the back. What about you? I'll handle this. He stepped toward the entrance, gripping his gun tight. Through the dim emergency lights, he saw the faint outline of a figure in the driver's seat. Watching. Waiting. Then. The driver's side door creaked open. A man stepped out, but Carter couldn't see his face. Only the silhouette of a tall figure, standing completely still. Carter raised his weapon. Sir, put your hands where I can see them. The figure didn't move. Didn't even flinch. Just stood there. Watching. Carter's finger hovered over the trigger. Then the man did something that made Carter's stomach drop. He slowly raised his hand, and pointed directly at the station. Directly at Anna. Carter took a step back, a sick feeling curling in his gut. Anna's whisper echoed in his mind. He knows. Then. The station's front windows shattered, glass exploded inward, shards flying across the station as Anna screamed. Sergeant Carter barely had time to react before he dove to the ground, covering his head as the station's front windows shattered. The loud crash echoed through the building, followed by a deafening silence. His heart pounded as he rolled onto his side, gun still clutched in his hand. Through the broken window, he could see the dark figure still standing beside the black SUV, motionless. The man hadn't moved. Hadn't stepped forward. Hadn't flinched. Carter's instincts screamed at him, this wasn't normal. Whoever this was, they weren't acting like a common criminal. They weren't running. They weren't even attacking outright. They were watching. Behind him, Riley crouched over Anna, shielding her from the broken glass. Are you okay? He asked urgently. Anna was shaking uncontrollably, her face pale as a ghost. I told you, she whispered. He knows. Carter gritted his teeth. He had had enough of this cryptic fear. He rose to his feet, gun locked on the figure outside. Last warning. Hands where I can see them. The figure finally moved, but not in the way Carter expected. Instead of complying, the man slowly stepped backward toward the SUV. His movements were unnaturally smooth, deliberate. He didn't run, didn't hurry. Just took slow, measured steps. Carter took a step forward, every nerve in his body on high alert. "Stop right there." The man's hand reached for the SUV door handle. "Riley, call it in." Carter barked. Riley grabbed his radio. "Dispatch, we need all available units at." Static. Nothing but static. Riley's face tightened. "Radio's dead." The power outage. The shattered windows. The radio silence. Something wasn't right. Carter didn't have time to think. The man yanked open the SUV's door. Carter fired a warning shot. The bullet hit the ground near the man's feet, kicking up dust and asphalt. But the man didn't even react. Didn't jump. Didn't flinch. He simply turned his head, slowly, to look at Carter. That was when Carter finally saw his face. A thin, pale face, eyes sunken deep into dark sockets. His skin had an almost unnatural smoothness to it, as if he weren't quite human. And then, the man smiled. A slow, chilling stretch of lips that sent an ice-cold shiver down Carter's spine. Then, without another second of hesitation, the man got into the SUV and slammed the door shut. The engine roared to life. Carter raised his gun again. "Don't let him leave." But before he could fire another shot, the SUV's tires screeched, and the vehicle peeled away, disappearing down the road into the darkness. Carter ran forward, but it was too late. The SUV turned a corner and vanished from sight. Gone. Silence fell over the station once more, broken only by the distant echo of the retreating engine. Carter turned back toward the station, his jaw tight. Riley was still crouched beside Anna, who was hugging her knees to her chest, shaking violently. Carter holstered his gun and knelt beside them. "All right, Anna. No more cryptic warnings. Who the hell is that guy?" Anna didn't respond at first. She was staring at the broken window, her breath coming in shallow gasps. Finally, in a small, fragile voice, she said, "He's the one who took me." Carter's stomach clenched. "Took you? You mean kidnapped?" She gave a weak nod. "I woke up in a locked room. I don't remember how I got there. I don't even know how long I was there. Days, weeks? I don't know." Her voice cracked. "But he always watched me." A chill crawled up Carter's spine. "Watched you?" Anna's hands gripped the sleeves of her hoodie. There was a camera in the room. Always on. Always watching. And sometimes he would come inside. Carter exchanged a glance with Riley, both men's expressions darkening. Carter's voice lowered. "Did he hurt you?" Anna hesitated. "No. Not physically. But he would just stand there. In the doorway. Watching me. Like he was waiting for something." Riley clenched his jaw. "And you never saw anyone else? No other captors?" Anna shook her head. "Just him." Carter exhaled slowly, trying to process this. A single captor. No physical harm. Just watching. It didn't add up. Most kidnappings had a motive, ransom, trafficking, something tangible. But this sounded more like a psychological game. And that scared him even more. "What happened tonight?" he asked. "How did you escape?" Anna swallowed hard. "The power went out. Just like here. Everything went dark. I don't know if it was an accident or something else, but the door unlocked. I ran. I didn't stop running." Her voice broke. "I thought I lost him." Carter's throat tightened. "But you didn't." She shook her head, eyes brimming with tears. "No. He found me." Carter stood up, running a hand through his hair. "We need to get this out to all units. If he took you once, he'll try again." Riley grabbed his radio again, but it was still dead. "We need to use the landline." But before they could move, Anna's head snapped up. Her face went pale again. "No," she whispered. Carter turned sharply. "What?" Her voice trembled. He never lets me go this easily." A sick realization twisted in Carter's gut. If this man had spent weeks watching her, if he had gone through the trouble of abducting her, why would he just leave now? Then it hit him. He's not running away. He's playing a game. A sharp, cold breeze drifted through the shattered window. The night outside was dead silent. Too silent. Carter's grip on his gun tightened as his eyes swept the darkened street. Then he saw it. At the end of the block, where the streetlights had gone out, stood a figure. Tall. Motionless. Watching. A familiar, eerie shape. Carter's stomach dropped. He turned back to Riley. "Get her to the back. Now." Riley didn't hesitate. He pulled Anna to her feet and guided her toward the station's secure back room. Carter took a step toward the window, locking eyes with the shadowy figure in the distance. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then, just as Carter reached for his radio again, the figure raised a single hand and pointed directly at him. The hairs on Carter's arms stood on end. He barely had time to react before all the lights in the station cut out again. Total darkness. Anna's scream rang out from the back room. And Carter knew. The game had just begun. The lights died. The station was swallowed in absolute blackness. Sergeant Carter's heart pounded as he gripped his gun, his instincts screaming. The emergency backup generator should have kicked in, but it didn't. This wasn't just a power failure. This was planned. "Riley," he called, his voice low but urgent. No response. "Anna?" Silence. The back of his neck prickled. He had to move, fast. Carter reached for his flashlight, but before he could switch it on, he heard it. A slow creak. Like a door, opening. His breath hitched. That wasn't Riley or Anna. He knew the sound of every door in this station. And that door was coming from the inside. He flicked on the flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness, shaking slightly in his grip. The hallway stretched before him, empty. The doors to the back rooms were still shut. But the evidence room door, at the far end? Wide open. Carter's blood ran cold. That door had been locked. He was sure of it. A shadow flickered across the hallway. Someone was inside the station. And it wasn't just Anna or Riley. Carter moved quickly, his boots silent against the tiled floor. His flashlight swept the hallway, casting long, shifting shadows against the walls. The air was thick, suffocating. He's here. The man in the shadows. And Carter had no doubt, this was no ordinary criminal. He reached the evidence room and pressed his back against the wall beside the door, steadying his breath. He counted to 3, then swung inside, gun raised. Empty. The room was lined with metal shelves, filled with old case files, boxed evidence, and confiscated weapons locked behind reinforced glass. But no one was here. Carter took a step forward, then stopped. The hair on his arm stood up. Something felt wrong. He turned slowly. On the far wall, where the security camera monitor should have been, the screen was on. But instead of the usual security feed, it showed something else. A live feed. From a different camera. A hidden camera. The image was grainy, distorted, but unmistakable. It showed the inside of the station. Right now. Carter's blood turned to ice. It wasn't the main security cameras. Those had gone dark with the power. This was something else. Someone had set up their own cameras. And the feed was showing the back room, where Riley had taken Anna. Carter's pulse spiked. He turned and sprinted back down the hall. The moment he reached the door, he heard it. A struggle. Anna was screaming. Riley was shouting. Carter didn't hesitate. He slammed his shoulder into the door, bursting inside, gun raised. And froze. The room was empty. The only sign of struggle was an overturned chair. Papers were scattered across the floor. But Riley and Anna were gone. The back door, leading to the alley, was slightly ajar. Carter's gut twisted. How? How had someone gotten in without making a sound? The station was locked down. There were no broken doors, no forced entry. And yet, Riley and Anna were gone. He scanned the room, forcing himself to think fast. Then he saw it. Near the overturned chair, a small piece of paper lay on the ground. He knelt and picked it up. 2 words were written in shaky, hurried handwriting. Don't follow. Carter's grip tightened on the paper. Anna had written this. She was warning him. But why? His instincts screamed at him to run after them, but something about this felt wrong. This wasn't just an abduction. This was a trap. Carter stood, took a deep breath, and reached for his radio. Still dead. Then, behind him. A whisper. A breath of sound, too close. He spun around, gun raised. And saw nothing. Just the empty room. But he knew. He wasn't alone. A movement. A shift in the air. A presence. Then. A soft beep. From his belt. Carter's phone. The screen flickered to life. An incoming message. No number. No contact. Just a single text. You have 1 hour. Carter's throat tightened. 1 hour, for what? To find them? To run? Or something worse? Before he could process it, a second text popped up. Check the locker. Carter's stomach twisted. Which locker? Then he realized, there was only one locker this could mean. The old holding cell locker. A place no one should know about. A place that had been sealed for years. Carter didn't waste time. He turned and bolted toward the old holding area, adrenaline fueling his steps. The door was old, rusted, barely used anymore. But as he reached for the handle, he saw it was already unlocked. His breath caught in his throat. Someone had already been here. Carter took a deep breath, steadied his gun, and yanked the door open. Inside, the small locker sat against the far wall. Something was taped to the front. A Polaroid photo. His hands trembled slightly as he peeled it off. When he saw the image, his blood ran cold. It was a picture of Riley. Bound. Gagged. Eyes wide with fear. And behind him, a shadowy figure. Half in the light, half obscured in darkness. But Carter recognized that chilling, unmoving stare. The man in the shadows. The same one who had shattered the glass. The same one who had abducted Anna before. And he wasn't done yet. Beneath the photo, something else was written. A single line. 1 hour. Or they die. Carter clenched his jaw. Enough was enough. Whoever this was, whatever game they were playing. It ended tonight. He turned and stormed out of the room. He had 1 hour. 1 hour to find Riley and Anna. 1 hour before it was too late. And as he stepped into the darkened hallway, he felt it again. That eerie sensation. He was being watched. And this time, whoever was watching wasn't hiding anymore. Carter had faced deadly criminals before. He had dealt with kidnappers, smugglers, and men who thought they could outsmart the law. But this was different. This wasn't just a crime. This was a game. A sick, twisted game where the rules weren't clear, but the consequences were deadly. And he had only 1 hour to figure it out. Carter stormed through the darkened station, phone gripped in one hand, gun in the other. The clock was ticking. He had to move fast. The first thing he needed? Clues. Whoever had Riley and Anna wanted him to follow their lead. They left a message on his phone. A second text buzzed onto the screen. Go home. Carter's chest tightened. Go home? He hadn't been back to his apartment in over 24 hours. Had they been inside? Had they been watching him even before this all started? He didn't have time to hesitate. He grabbed his keys and ran for the car. Carter's apartment, 11:07 p.m. Carter parked outside his apartment building, cutting the engine. The street was quiet, eerily so. He scanned the area, looking for anything out of place. Nothing. Still, his gut told him, he wasn't alone. Hand on his gun, he climbed the stairs to his second-floor unit. The hallway was dim, the overhead light flickering slightly. He reached his door. And stopped. The lock. It wasn't broken. It wasn't picked. But the deadbolt was undone. Someone had been inside. Recently. Carter's grip tightened. He pushed the door open and stepped inside. His apartment was dark. Silent. He flicked the light switch. Nothing. Power cut here too. He pulled out his flashlight and swept it across the room. Then he saw it. The mess. His couch cushions were slashed. Papers were scattered. Cabinets left open. His fridge door slightly ajar. They had searched his place. But for what? He moved carefully through the apartment, heart pounding. Then his flashlight hit something new. A chair. Placed in the middle of the living room. And on the chair. A laptop. Carter swallowed hard. It wasn't his. Slowly, he approached it. The screen was dark, but as soon as he reached it, it flickered on. A video started playing automatically. Grainy. Shaky. It showed a dimly lit warehouse. And in the middle, Riley. Tied to a chair. Struggling. And beside him, Anna. Her face was pale. She looked at the camera, directly at Carter. Her lips moved, whispering something. But no sound came through. Then, a hand appeared on Riley's shoulder. A man stepped into view. The camera only showed his outline. The man in the shadows. His voice came through, distorted. You're running out of time. Then the video cut to black. A message appeared on the screen. Address sent to your phone. Carter's phone vibrated. A new text. An address. The warehouse district. And underneath it, 30 minutes left. Carter didn't think. He grabbed his keys and ran. The warehouse, 11:39 p.m. Carter killed the engine and stepped out into the cold night air. The warehouse loomed ahead, abandoned and silent. Too silent. His instincts screamed at him. This was a setup. But he had no choice. Riley and Anna were inside. And if he didn't act fast, they wouldn't make it out. Carter moved carefully, gun raised, every muscle tense. He pressed himself against the outer wall and peered through a broken window. Inside, the warehouse was mostly empty. But at the center, a single chair. And in the chair, Riley. Alone. Carter's stomach twisted. Where was Anna? And why wasn't Riley moving? He had no time to think. He moved to the side door, testing the handle. Unlocked. Another trap. But Carter went in anyway. His boots echoed against the concrete floor as he moved forward. Riley's head was slumped forward. "Riley," Carter whispered, approaching carefully. "Can you hear me?" No response. Carter took another step. And froze. Riley's arms. They weren't tied. His hands were resting in his lap. Unmoving. This wasn't right. Carter took a breath and lifted his flashlight. The moment the beam hit Riley's face, his stomach dropped. Riley's eyes were open. Wide. But lifeless. A metallic click echoed through the warehouse. A voice, low, taunting, cut through the silence. "Too late, Sergeant." Carter spun, gun raised. But before he could fire, a sharp pain exploded at the back of his head. Darkness swallowed him whole. Unknown location, time unknown. Carter's world was a blur of pain. His skull throbbed. His wrists, tied. His surroundings, dark. But he wasn't alone. A soft, shaking breath came from nearby. "Anna." Carter forced his eyes open. They were in a dimly lit basement. Concrete walls. A single flickering bulb. Anna was in the corner, knees pulled to her chest, arms wrapped around herself. She was terrified. And across from them, the man in the shadows. No longer just a silhouette. Now, Carter could see him. A scarred face. Cold eyes. A man he didn't recognize. But the look in his eyes. Pure hatred. The man crouched down, studying Carter with a smirk. "Welcome to the end, Sergeant." Carter's heart pounded. The trap had worked. And now, he had to find a way out. Before it was too late. Pain pulsed through Carter's skull. His wrists burned from the tight rope digging into his skin. Every muscle in his body screamed to move, to fight, but he couldn't. He was trapped. And across the dimly lit basement, the man in the shadows stared at him. A scar ran down his cheek, twisting as he smirked. His cold eyes studied Carter like a predator toying with prey. Anna sat in the corner, knees pulled to her chest, arms wrapped around herself. She wasn't crying anymore. No, she was watching. Waiting. Carter could feel her fear, but there was something else in her gaze too. Something strange. Then the man spoke. "Welcome back, Sergeant." His voice was calm. Almost amused. Carter's jaw tightened. "Who the hell are you?" The man ignored the question. Instead, he pulled a chair from the side of the room and sat down directly in front of Carter. "You always were persistent." Carter didn't blink. "You know me." It wasn't a question. It was a statement. The man's smirk deepened. "I know everything about you." Silence stretched between them. Then, a file landed at Carter's feet. Thick. Worn. His military records. Carter felt a chill run through him. This man had dug into his past. But why? The man leaned forward. "I know where you served. I know the men you fought alongside. I even know the orders you followed. Every single one." Carter's stomach twisted. There was only one reason someone would dig that deep. Revenge. He swallowed, forcing his voice to stay steady. "I don't know you." The man's eyes darkened. "No," he said. "But you knew my brother." Carter's pulse quickened. Brother. His mind raced, sorting through years of missions, enemies, conflicts. Then it clicked. A memory from 3 years ago. A drug smuggling operation in South America. A cartel leader taken out by special forces. Carter had been part of the takedown. The man in front of him. He was his brother. Carter's jaw clenched. This is revenge. The man smiled. Not yet. Carter's fists tightened against the ropes. Where's Riley? His voice was low, dangerous. The man tilted his head. Oh, you haven't figured it out yet? Carter's breath slowed. A sick feeling settled in his gut. He was never meant to make it out alive. The words hit like a hammer. Carter knew Riley was dead. He'd seen it with his own eyes. But something about the way this man said it. The mocking tone. The cold satisfaction. It made Carter's blood boil. He gritted his teeth. And Anna? The man's eyes flicked to the girl. She hadn't moved. She still sat curled in the corner, silent. But now, her gaze wasn't on Carter. It was on the man. Like she was waiting for him to say something. Carter's heart pounded. Something was wrong. Then the man spoke. Anna is very special. Carter froze. The way he said it, possessive. Like she was his. The man leaned back in his chair. You never wondered why she whispered those words to the police? Carter held his breath. The two words. The words that had sent police into emergency action. The words that started all of this. The man smiled darkly. She told them, his name. Carter's stomach dropped. Anna had whispered his name to the police. This man. The one who kidnapped her. The one who murdered Riley. The one who set this entire trap. She knew him. Carter's mind raced. Why didn't she say anything to him? Why had she stayed quiet this whole time? Unless she wasn't just a victim. The air in the room felt heavier. Carter turned his gaze back to Anna. She still didn't speak. But now, for the first time, she smiled. A twisted truth. The world around Carter blurred for a moment. This wasn't just a kidnapping. This wasn't just a revenge plot. It was bigger. More complex. Carter forced himself to focus. He couldn't afford to panic. The man chuckled. I see you're starting to get it. Carter's voice came out low. She's not a hostage. The man nodded approvingly. She's family. Carter's mind reeled. He looked at Anna again. Her brown eyes, the way she carried herself. She wasn't just some lost girl. She was trained. Carter had spent years working with intelligence operatives. He recognized the signs. She wasn't just any orphan. She had been placed in that orphanage. On purpose. Waiting. For this moment. Carter's throat went dry. Anna had never been in danger. Because she had been part of the plan all along. The whispers to the police. The clues leading Carter here. It had all been deliberate. He wasn't the hunter. He was the prey. Carter clenched his jaw. Why? The man's smirk widened. Because, Sergeant, you ruined everything. Carter stayed silent, waiting. The man stood, pacing slowly. My brother had a plan. A vision. We weren't just running drugs. We were building something bigger. You and your team didn't just kill him. You destroyed everything we worked for. Carter's chest rose and fell steadily. He knew men like this. Psychopaths who justified their crimes. Who believed they were owed something. But there was one thing he still didn't understand. He looked at Anna. She's just a kid, Carter said carefully. Why is she involved? The man laughed softly. Anna, he said, turning to her. Would you like to tell him? The girl lifted her head. And then, for the first time, she spoke. I've always known my real family, she said, voice quiet but steady. Carter's stomach twisted. Her voice was too calm. Too controlled. They put me in the orphanage to wait. Until the right time. Carter's mind raced. She had been planted there. This entire case was never about rescuing Anna. It was about trapping Carter. The man in the shadows crossed his arms. You thought you were saving her. But she was never yours to save. Carter's fists clenched behind his back. His gun was gone. His hands were tied. But his mind was still sharp. And he wasn't going down without a fight. He took a slow breath. Then what now? He asked. The man's smirk returned. Now, Sergeant? He pulled a knife from his belt. Now, we finish what we started. Carter tensed. This wasn't over. Not yet. And if they thought he was just going to sit here and die, they had no idea who they were dealing with. The basement smelled of damp concrete and old blood. Carter's pulse was steady, but his mind raced. His wrists burned where the ropes had bitten into his skin, but he ignored the pain. Across the room, the man in the shadows clutched his bleeding shoulder, his smirk faltering for the first time. Anna still held the smoking gun. But the way she stood, the way she had shot him, it wasn't the act of a scared child. Carter's instincts screamed at him to be careful. This girl wasn't what she seemed. And she had just freed him. For now. The man coughed, struggling to sit up. Blood trickled down his lips, but his eyes still burned with hatred. You think you've won? He rasped. You still don't understand. Carter moved swiftly. He grabbed the man by his shirt and slammed him against the concrete floor. The man groaned in pain, but his smirk returned. Where's Riley? Carter demanded. The man chuckled weakly. You think this is about him? Carter's grip tightened. Answer me. The man winced but didn't speak. Anna took a step closer. He's stalling, she said. Carter glanced at her. What do you mean? Her hands curled into fists. There are others. More of them. If we don't leave now, they'll come for us. Carter's stomach twisted. Anna had played a game far deeper than he had realized. She had been raised for this moment. And yet, she had shot the man instead of siding with him. Was she telling the truth? Or was this another trick? No time to think. Carter moved quickly, searching the unconscious man. He pulled a small key from his pocket, probably to a vehicle. He also found a phone. No passcode. Amateur mistake. He flicked through the messages. And then he saw it. A message sent just minutes ago. Bring them in. It's time. Anna was right. Reinforcements were coming. Carter turned to her. If you're lying to me, I'll leave you behind. Anna met his gaze, unflinching. I'm not lying. Carter hesitated a fraction of a second longer, then made his decision. Move. Escape. They bolted up the basement stairs. Carter kept Anna in front of him, watching for any signs of betrayal. The house above was dark, abandoned. The windows were shattered. Peeling wallpaper hung from the walls like dead skin. Carter's instincts screamed trap. He slowed. Wait. Anna turned. What? Carter scanned the shadows. Something felt off. Then. Glass crunched. Carter grabbed Anna and shoved her down just as a bullet shattered the air. The shot slammed into the doorframe where Anna's head had been a second ago. Sniper. Run. Carter barked. They sprinted through the ruined house as more bullets ripped through the walls. Carter yanked Anna toward the back door. More movement outside. They were surrounded. Carter's mind worked fast. They needed a way out. Now. His eyes landed on an old, rusted fridge in the kitchen. Still plugged in. He grabbed a knife from the counter, cut the power cord, and yanked it free. "What are you doing?" Anna panted. Carter didn't answer. He grabbed a half-empty metal bucket and poured the water across the back doorway. The broken power cord dangled above it. "Stay back," he warned. Anna's eyes widened. "You're gonna." The first man burst through the doorway. Carter jammed the power cord into the water. Electricity surged. The man screamed, his body seizing as the current ran through him. He collapsed, unconscious. More shouts outside. Carter grabbed Anna's arm and yanked her toward the side window. "Jump," he ordered. She hesitated, then obeyed. Carter followed, landing hard on the overgrown grass. The black SUV parked in the driveway was their only chance. He tossed Anna the key. "Start it." She sprinted toward the vehicle. Carter turned back just as more men spilled from the house. He grabbed the fallen man's gun, lifted it, and fired. 2 down. A third man fired back. Carter ducked, rolling behind a rusted car. No time to fight. Anna had the SUV running. Carter took a deep breath, then sprinted full speed. Bullets chased his heels. He dived into the passenger seat. "Go!" Anna slammed the gas. Tires screeched. The SUV shot down the road, bullets pinging off the frame. And then... silence. They had escaped. For now. The truth about Riley. Carter pressed a hand to his forehead, breathing hard. "Talk." Anna gripped the wheel. "About what?" "About Riley." She hesitated. Carter's voice turned sharp. "You said he was alive. Where is he?" Anna swallowed. "I don't know exactly." Carter's jaw clenched. "But," she continued, "I know how to find him." She pulled a folded paper from her jacket and handed it to him. Carter unfolded it. It was coordinates. And below them, a single name. Carter's blood turned to ice. The name belonged to a ghost. Someone who wasn't supposed to exist. Someone even worse than the man they had just escaped from. The real mastermind. Anna gripped the wheel tighter. "They were never trying to kill Riley," she said quietly. "They were using him.